Politics. They piss everybody off, even when people agree with each other. They can break up families and spawn a million inaccurate Facebook memes. So, when wrestling and politics collide, you know some dumb stuff's about to go down. And this week, I'm gonna rank them the top 8 worst politically charged angles and gimmicks of all time. Number 8. Hollywood Hogan for President. On Thanksgiving night in 1998, Hollywood Hogan went on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno and suddenly announced his retirement from professional wrestling. He then topped that announcement by doing the unthinkable, by announcing he would run for President of the United States. When asked about party lines, Hogan answered, quote, "I think I'm right in the middle." He added, quote, "Everything across the board has got to be for America." I tell you, he already has the politician thing down. He can talk a lot without saying anything. But it was all just a publicity stunt meant to ride the coattails of Jesse Ventura's gubernatorial win in Minnesota, while also giving Hogan a little bit of time to rest. 1 month later, Hogan made his return to WCW just in time to take part in one of the biggest booking gaffes in wrestling history. You know, if Hogan actually went through with it and won the presidency, he would have done less damage than what he did in WCW. Number 7. Zeb Colter and Jack Swagger, Border Patrol. Let's face it, our country is more divided now than ever before. Divided and angry. And few things get Americans more divided and angry than the topic of immigration. Enter Zeb Colter. Dutch Mantel returned to WWE in early 2013 as Zeb Colter, a bombastic veteran with an extreme dislike of immigrants. Not just illegal immigrants, anyone who didn't fit his idea of what a real American was.
I see people with faces not like mine.
You shouldn't speak Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, German, or hell, even Pig Latin.
Coulter's character was seen by many as an extreme spoof of some fringe members of the right wing. Wrestling has always portrayed unabashed racists as heels, but to industry outsiders like commentators Alex Jones and Glenn Beck, well, they didn't quite get the joke. Both lambasted WWE for the character. That prompted the company to have Colter and Swagger implode kayfabe and deliver a statement to Beck in a YouTube video using their real names. Well, there goes all the drama that was going into the world title match at WrestleMania.
To target the WWE World Champion Alberto Del Rio. Also a character played by my friend Jose Rodriguez.
His friend? His friend? Excuse me, didn't Rusev and Lana get put in the doghouse for doing this exact same thing last year? Number 6. Rusev the Russian. Speaking of Rusev and Lana, things were looking pretty sweet for the duo in 2014. Rusev was in the midst of his big push with an unbeaten streak in the US Championship, becoming an honorary son of Russia in the process. Because when the average WWE fan can't find Bulgaria on a map, just say Russia. Because Cold War. Using Russia as a scapegoat for Rusev and Lana's evil ways got a tad controversial at times. During a promo at Battleground 2014, Lana referenced the deadly Malaysia Airlines plane crash from a week before, which happened near the Russian border. After getting all kinds of flack from it, WWE backpedaled and said the promo had nothing to do with the plane crash, but come on, who are we fooling here? As the push continued, Rusev would celebrate every victory with the Russian flag flying above the ring. But by the fall, the Big Show was having none of it. Fresh off his 433rd face turn, the Big Show pulled the whole thing down, which prompted the company to apologize for desecrating the flag. And if that wasn't bad enough, Rusev tried doing the same thing to the US flag weeks later, only to be awkwardly interrupted by a plant dressed as a military veteran. The whole thing was just sad. It's a good thing that Rusev is back to being a regular Bulgarian again, and Lana is, well, Lana's just there. Number 5. Mohammad Ahsan. Definitely not a terrorist. What happens when you make a character that constantly evokes one of the biggest global tragedies of all time only a couple of years after it happened while it's still fresh in everyone's minds? Well, in WWE, you can tell exactly what's going to happen. The topic of the very first episode of Wrestling with Regret, Mark Kapani debuted at the end of 2004 as Mohammad Ahsan, an Arab American who felt unfairly persecuted by his fellow countrymen after the terror attacks on 9/11. Hassan was one of those rare things in wrestling, a heel whose actions were 100% justified. The gimmick played upon all the political strife about the wars and Islamophobia in America without going too over the top. This gimmick was an instant heat magnet, and rumor has it he was on the fast track to winning the world title in 2005. But WWE ruined a perfectly good thing by removing any and all subtlety surrounding the gimmick. Muha called on a bunch of goons suspiciously dressed like members of a terrorist militia to attack The Undertaker in a segment that happened to air on the same day as the London bombings of July 7th. Lots of backlash from UPN and its viewers later, and that was the beginning of the end for Mohammad Ahsan. Number 4. The Steiner-Nowinski debate. WWE didn't wait all the way until 2005 to take a stance on what happened after 9/11. That groundbreaking moment happened in 2003. On a very special episode of Raw in April of that year, viewers were treated to a debate on the merits of the Iraq War, which had started about a month earlier. Presenting the argument against the war was Harvard grad Chris Nowinski, and presenting the argument for the war was a graduate from a highly educated university, Sgt Steiner. It makes sense that Steiner would represent the pro-war argument. After all, he is the personification of America. Big, loud, and pumped full of chemicals. Allegedly. The debate was about as nuanced as you could get in front of a crowd of fans who just wanted to go to a wrestling show to find an escape from talk about war. Nowinski took the stance that America is a global bully, while Sgt Steiner's argument boiled down to this. America, fuck yeah! 3-minute warning and Rico soon crashed the proceedings, sparing us from more of this nonsense. But Steiner was the one who was truly saved here, as his real debate opponent wasn't Nowinski at all, but the English language.
I've wrestled in a lot of countries. Terrorism drew first blood on 9/11.
God bless you, Scott. The internet owes you a great debt. Number 3. Hillary versus Obama. Oh God, not another impersonator match! Did we not suffer enough through Trump versus Rosie? It was April of 2008. The presidential primaries were heating up as Senators Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were embroiled in the bitter and hotly contested race for the Democratic nomination. And so, with his finger on the pulse of what his demographic truly wants, Vince McMahon booked a couple of not-so-lookalikes of the two on the evening before the Pennsylvania primary. I'll admit, there were a couple of funny moments during this sketch. Obama coming out to the Rock's music because their names kind of rhyme, and the Bill Clinton impersonator was fire emoji on the open mic.
Hey, don't touch her. She doesn't even let me touch her. Come on, man, leave her alone. She hasn't had a man touch her in so many years, it's not even funny. Come on.
But those things couldn't lift up this catastrophe of lame promos and even worse wrestling. Thank God Hugh Mango walked in to save the day. Well, that was about 12 minutes we'll never get back. Number 2. Sgt Slaughter, Iraqi sympathizer. In 1990, Sgt Slaughter returned to the WWF after a 5-year run in the AWA. After leaving the company as one of its top faces, Slaughter shocked the world by returning as a heel. In kayfabe, he originally became a baddie in response to the public's embracing of Nikolai Volkov. But shortly after the invasion of Kuwait that would lead to the Gulf War, Slaughter upped the ante by becoming an Iraqi sympathizer. During his run, he claimed that he and Saddam Hussein were best buds, defeated the Ultimate Warrior for the championship at the 1991 Royal Rumble, burned Hulk Hogan's shirt because he told Vince he wouldn't burn the American flag, and went on to lose the title to Hogan at WrestleMania 7. It's worth pointing out that Mania 7 was supposed to be held at the LA Memorial Coliseum, but they changed it to the smaller sports arena at the last minute. The company said it was due to security concerns, but the reality of the situation was ticket sales were poor, probably because this main event storyline hit a little too close to home and no one wanted to see it. I mean, the match itself was good at least. But the security issues were no joke for Slaughter, as he constantly received death threats as a heel and couldn't go anywhere without a bulletproof vest. Getting that much heat is great and all, but not when it's at the expense of men and women dying in the desert for real. And the number 1 worst politically charged angle in wrestling history is Stand Up For WWE. In 2010, former WWE CEO Linda McMahon ran for a Senate seat in Connecticut. Her opponents, along with the media, pointed out that her most recent job had her overseeing a company that featured a plethora of offensive storylines and characters, a handful of sexual harassment lawsuits, drug scandals, premature deaths, and at least one run-in with the federal government. This kind of background check is to be expected. It's a vetting process that comes with the territory when somebody runs for public office. So WWE responded in the way you might expect, by throwing a massive hissy fit and challenging anyone who dared to criticize them. Enter the Stand Up For WWE campaign, a PR blitzkrieg that ran from October 2010 to about 2012. The campaign essentially boiled down to people within WWE putting the company over as a benevolent enterprise, patting themselves on the back for all the good they've done with voter registration and supporting the troops, meaning that they should never be challenged on the merit of their content. And to top it all off, the company had the audacity to ask the fans to help bail them out too.
And we ask you to join us in responding to these malicious attacks against the company and you, our viewers.
I hope that whoever was in charge of writing press releases for the company during this time got a fat raise, because he went above and beyond. There are tons of releases that go after journalists who make even the slightest remark about the company. In many of the releases, WWE implored that the rebuttals had nothing to do with Linda McMahon's campaign, though I find it odd the company never gave a damn about defending themselves before or after her Senate run. It's not a storyline or a gimmick, but considering how transparent and shameless the whole thing was, not to mention how little it did to improve Linda's numbers or their own brand, that makes Stand Up For WWE the worst politically charged thing in wrestling history. Do you have any that I missed? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling With Regret, and buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.